Awesome. We're going to link into our South family right now. So you can say what's up to South. Go say hi. Turn around. There's a camera. I'm moving this chair. I'm going to do what I want, Jeremy. Jeremy just told me to do what I want, South, so I'm going to do it. Oh. He said do it. You won't. LOL. Hi. And last time I sat down, I asked Colton if the camera could still see me. And apparently at South, they made a joke about how short I was. And I get it. I'm short, okay? I'm fun-sized. Yeah. I'm short. I get it. But I'm glad you guys can still see me. I missed you guys. And if you're new to this space, you're like, what the heck is going on? I'm really glad to be back with you guys. I missed you guys last week, but Meg is sick tonight, but can we just, honor Meg for a second? Guys, give it up for Meg at South, too. She preached an amazing message, and can I tell you, that girl had maybe 4 hours to prepare. I called her, and I was like, Meg, I cannot preach tonight. I need you to preach. And she was just ready. She had her yes hat on. She had her faith hat on. Her spirit was aligned, and man, did God move. So I just want to honor Meg. She's probably going to watch this back. Meg, we love you. We're so thankful for you. She'll be at South next week, helping out there. So South family, be ready. You're going to get the gift of Meg. But I missed you guys so much. I wasn't here last week. And can I be honest with you guys tonight? Oh, there was a hesitant on that. If I can't be honest with you guys, I better get off of this stage. So I'm going to ask again. South, you better answer too. Can I be honest with you guys tonight? Okay. I'm going to be really, really honest with you guys tonight. So what I need from you guys is I need you to lean in. All right. I'm going to share some stuff. Yeah, lean in. I'm going to share some stuff that I don't normally share, but I just feel like I couldn't come up here and I couldn't fake it. I couldn't come up here. If I'm being completely honest with you guys, I had the hardest week of probably my entire life last week. And I'll get into the reasoning behind that. But I just felt so strongly that I couldn't get up here. And I could have probably prepared a cute cookie cutter message and put on a mask and been like, oh my gosh, this is what God's doing. And gave 3 points and probably threw a couple jokes in there. And it would have been really funny. Okay. And it would have been great. And it would have been a cute message. And I'm sure God would have moved. But I did not feel like that's what I could do. I felt like I had to be open and vulnerable with you guys in what I'm walking through. So, oh my goodness, I am not going to cry tonight. Okay, I am not going to cry in Jesus' name. So, do you want to put up Revelation 12:11? Revelation 12:11 says this. Wow, that screen is a little crooked. That's so funny. It says this, and they have defeated him, talking about the enemy. They've defeated the enemy by the blood of the Lamb. So that just means by Jesus dying on the cross, he shed his blood. By the blood of Jesus, they defeated the enemy, and by their testimony. I just want to focus on that. And by their testimony. Right? And I felt like I couldn't go through the hardest week of my life, and now it's a part of my testimony. And so if I'm being completely honest, I'm so broken, and I'm so hurting right now, and I wasn't sure if I was even going to be able to make it tonight. But it's by their testimony and by the blood of Christ that we can overcome the enemy. And so I wanted to be honest with you guys, and I want to share a little bit of what I'm walking through, if that's all right. Is that all right with you guys? South, is that all right with you? I'm sure they said yes. I'm positive they said yes. South family, we love you. And we can't wait to be in the room all together at United Night, right? Right? So I'm beating around the bush here. Last week, I was supposed to preach, right? And it was Tuesday. And if you don't know, we have City Youth on Tuesdays. Shout out to City. And I was getting ready to preach, and I got a call. And the call was Tyra, it was basically sob crying, and it said, Grandma fell, I don't know, I'll keep you updated, and then hung up. And if you don't know, my family is I'm from the West Coast. I'm from Washington State. So my family is all the way over here. And my grandma that they're talking about, I like to call her my Asian grandma because she's Asian, and she's my favorite. I love her. And I actually got the honor of getting to live with her and getting to just learn from her before I went off to college. And so in that moment, I was like, God, like, I don't know what's going on. My family's all the way across the country, right? Like, how in the heck am I going to wrestle with this? How in the heck am I going to preach a message tonight? But I was like, okay, God, like, we're just going to get through it. We're going to get through it. And then I got another call, like 5 minutes later. And my dad is just sobbing. And he was like, Tyra, Grandma passed away. And he said, I don't know what we're going to do, but I'll get you home and we'll figure it out. And then he hung up the phone, and I broke down. And so today I'm going to be talking about lessons that I've learned from grieving. But I don't want you guys to check out just because maybe you've never lost somebody. I don't want you guys to check out because maybe you've never felt the pain of grief, because I think we've all felt grief in some different way, shape, or form, whether it's grieving a friend that we lost, right? A friendship that we once had that we don't have, whether it's walking through heartbreak or disappointment. So whatever you're walking through right now, it doesn't have to be grief. It could be disappointment. Like, you're like, God, I'm disappointed in how this situation turned out. Right? It could be, God, my life doesn't look the way that I want it to look. And there's some tension and there's some heartbreak with that. So I don't want you guys to check out because maybe you haven't felt the pain of grief, okay? But I do believe that God is going to speak to each and every one of our hearts wherever we're at. And maybe you're not in a situation like this and you are on a mountaintop. And I love that you're on a mountaintop. Take this and save it for a friend that's in a valley low right now, for somebody in your life that you can come alongside, okay? Okay? Are y'all with me? South, are you with me? So I get this call, and Izzy, you guys know Izzy, our girl Izzy, she does our graphics for youth and all of our social media. Izzy was over, and oh my goodness, Izzy was so kind, because I was literally screaming, and she just came, and she grabbed my hand, and she just sat with me. She grabbed my hand, and she just sat with me as I was crying my eyes out. And she, was like, what do you need me to do? Like, what do you need me to do? And I was like, And she goes, delegate, Tyra. Like, what do you need me to do? And I was like, call Meg and all this stuff. So Meg literally didn't know she was going to preach. And man, did she preach an amazing word. And man, am I so thankful for the team, the youth team. I'm so thankful for the youth team that we have that I can lean on. So when moments like this happen and I need to fly to Washington State, they can hop in and come in. But in that moment, something that Izzy did that made me cry as I was already sobbing. Something that Izzy did is there was I was throwing stuff in a bag, okay? I was like, I don't even know what I'm packing. I was at that point where I was like, Lord, you're going to provide clothes in Washington because none of these are making an actual outfit, and I don't even care. Okay, I was like, I literally do not even care. I was just throwing stuff in a bag because I had to be on a plane in less than an hour. And I was like, okay, we're throwing it in a bag, And Izzy took my laundry out of my dryer and just started folding it. And you guys are like, Tyra, why the heck are you talking about your laundry? And as I was talking to Izzy after, she was like, I just felt this prompting of the Holy Spirit to just be like, fold her laundry. And I started crying because one way that a lesson that I learned from my grandma is when I was walking through depression and living with her, and I don't know if any of you guys have this, or maybe you just have a messy room, my laundry would pile up and get everywhere, and I couldn't even see my floor. But what my grandma would do in those moments is she would come in, and she would clean my room. She would do all my laundry and just fold it, put it away, and that's the main thing that she did. She would just do my laundry in a way of showing her love and showing her care. And so when Izzy started just folding my laundry and placing it in a bag for me, I started sobbing. And if I'm being honest, there's so many more moments that came after this. But my first point is we need a godly community. We need a godly community, right? So when you're walking through heartbreak, or you're walking through something hard, or you're walking through disappointment, man, do we need a godly community? Because if I'm being completely honest, I would not be able to be here and even just hold a microphone this week if it wasn't for my godly community coming alongside me and praying for me. If it wasn't for my godly community dropping off food, if it wasn't for the people checking up and being like, hey, can I just come and stay with you this weekend so you don't have to be alone in this, right? We need a godly community. Proverbs 27:17 says this, as iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. We need a godly community because, man, are they going to help us and are they going to come alongside of us in moments that are hard. And not only the hard moments, though, right? Like, I may be walking through something incredibly difficult, but maybe you're like, Tyra, I'm fine. Like, I'm on a mountaintop. I'm living my best life right now. We also need people in those moments to keep us in check, right? Because how many of us know when we get on a mountaintop high, our pride likes to come up, right? We need friends that are going to call us out. We need friends that are going to call us out. And so my first point was we need a godly community. But can I say this? You have to have a community to call on a community. So right now, if you're sitting in this room and you don't have a godly community, look around. Okay, look around, because this can be your godly community. Find a leader in the room that's of your same gender and literally let them pour into you. That's what they are here for. Okay, leaders are here to pour into you, and they want to pour into you. So if you're like, Tyra, I would love to call in a godly community, but I don't have a godly community, here's the place. South, that's the place. Okay, this is a place to find a godly community, because how are you going to call in a godly community if you don't have a godly community? Right? How are you going to call people when everything possibly goes wrong that could go wrong? Who are you going to call if you don't have a community? Right? So if you don't have a community, get a community. And it's here, and there's leaders here that are willing to love on you and care for you. Okay? Okay? But here's the other thing that community will do. A community will call out the lies when you are too hurt to call them out yourself. I have walked through some pain. And man, when you are in a spot of brokenness and when you're in a spot of just hurting, it's easy to let the lies of the enemy come in. And it's easy for the enemy to attack you in that dark space because you're already down. Right? You're already down. You're already in a dark place. So the enemy likes to come in. Tyra, you're not good enough. Tyra, you're not called. Tyra, you should just move back home. Tyra, you shouldn't do what you're doing. Tyra, you've walked through too much pain. Like, you're too hurt. You're too broken. God can't move through you. And the lies of the enemy that would come on top of my grief and on top of me just screaming and being like, God, why the heck is this happening? And then the lies of the enemy on top of that. Man, am I so thankful for a community that came alongside of me and is still coming alongside me in my brokenness and saying, no, Tyra, that's the lie of the enemy. Right? Because it's easy to believe a lie when you're in a dark place. Right? How many of us know that? How many of us have been there? Right? We've believed a lie when we're in a dark place. But sometimes when we speak it out, when we tell a trusted friend, they're like, Tyra. Meg was literally like, Tyra, I literally would have never thought of that. That's a lie. Like, I would have never had that thought about you. That is a lie of the enemy. Okay, we need friends to come alongside us and call out the lies when we're too hurt and too broken to recognize them ourselves. Right? Because fighting the lies off yourself is hard. We're called to fight the good fight, but man, we're not called to do it alone. Okay, we're not called to do it alone. So in this past week, sorry guys, I kind of threw out what we were supposed to talk about tonight and just threw it to next week because I just wanted to be real with you guys. I didn't want to come up here and put on a mask. I didn't want to come up here and put on a front, okay, and just preach a cookie cutter message to you guys because I felt like you guys don't deserve that. You guys deserve a real, authentic person. Is that okay? Is that okay? All right. So as I got this call and had to kind of just throw stuff in a bag and get to the airport, I was on the plane, and man, was I sobbing. I was the crazy lady in the airport, okay? I was the crazy lady in the airport. I was, like, sitting on the ground. I was sobbing. I was on the phone with, like, mentors and people who were speaking to my life, and I was, like, ugly crying loudly, okay? I had mascara all over. I was wearing, like, a baggy sweatshirt. I had my hood on, strings pulled tight, okay? I was like, nobody look at me right now. And in that moment, when my mentor hung up because I was about to get on the plane and I was just left with the silence and the lies started coming, what I had to do was I had to turn on some worship music. And can I say this? Worship is a weapon. Worship is a weapon. Why? Because when you don't have the strength, right? When you don't have the strength, I did not have the strength to just get into my word and speak the power of God and the peace of, like, in that moment, I am a mess. In that moment, I was a crazy lady on the ground sobbing, okay? I barely had the strength to stand up and walk and get on that plane. Better yet, speak and declare the promises of God, okay? If I'm being so honest with you right now, I did not have the strength to speak and declare the promises of God. But what worship music does is it comes in and it speaks the promises of God over you. And it declares the promises of God over you when you feel like you don't have the strength. So as I'm singing this worship song, what I'm doing is I'm actually singing the promises of God over myself because of this worship song, right? And there's even worship songs that have prayers in them. So this worship song is praying over my hurting heart. Right? It's praying over my hurting heart when I feel like I don't have the strength, when I feel like, God, I can't do it. I'm in the middle of an airport sobbing. I'm a mess. I don't have the strength to even get on this plane. I feel like I had to crawl on that plane. And when I sat in the seat, all I could do was cry. I barely had the strength to not cry. Better yet, speak the promises over myself. So what worship music does, worship is a weapon that came into my life. And as I started declaring the worship lyrics, I was declaring the promises of heaven. So worship is a weapon. Deuteronomy 10:20 says this. You must fear the Lord your God and worship him. Worship him. But I love this next part. And cling to him. Cling to him. All right, y'all ever been on a roller coaster and you were scared? You had to cling to that handle. Okay, I'm talking grip, like you were gripping that handle. You know the ones that go upside down when you're on that kind of roller coaster? You were clinging for your life, if you're like me. You're clinging for your life to hold on. So when it says cling to God, it's not just a cute little, like, hands holding pinky. Like, no. Like, you are clinging to God, okay? And as we worship, that is a posture of clinging to God. Clinging to God. So wherever you may find yourself, whatever disappointment you may be facing, or maybe you have faced disappointment. Maybe you have faced heartache. Maybe you have walked through grief before, and I'm so sorry if you felt that pain. But man, can we be the people to cling to God in those moments? Because whatever else we cling to, if we're not clinging to God, we're clinging to something else. So if we're clinging to something else, it becomes a vice and it ends up hurting us more and more and more. And there's full messages on that on YouTube, so go watch them back. But can we be the people that in the midst of heartbreak, in the midst of immense pain, can we be the people that clings to God? Or can we be the people that if we're not walking through anything bad, can we be the people that comes alongside one of our friends who's hurting and says, hey, I got you. We're going to cling to God in this and point them to God. Can we be those people? This is my next point. When you don't know what to do because the pain is too much, worship. I was sitting in my living room, praying over my computer, being like, Lord, let there be a ticket for this night for me to be able to get back to my family. Like, I was like, I just need to get back. I just need to get back. I just need to get back. And in that moment, I paused and I just had to turn on worship music because I couldn't do anything else because the pain was too much. I couldn't talk. I couldn't speak. I felt like I was going to throw up because if I'm being honest, the pain with grieving is weird. It's physical too. And I felt like I was going to throw up because I was just in shock. I was in complete and utter shock. And the pain was too much. So I just turned on worship music. So if you find yourself in a space, maybe you're facing anxiety, maybe you're facing depression, if you find yourself in that space where the pain is too much, can I just encourage you, turn on worship music and just worship. Another thing with grief is, like, I was really mad. Y'all, I had so much rage. I swear, somebody looked at me wrong at the airport, I would have broke their arm. I'm not even kidding. Like, I had so much rage. Like, I was so mad that and when you're in that space, it's so easy to, like, turn on angry rap music, right? And it's so easy to turn on music that fits your mood and to just feed it. But what would have that done? Like, for me in that moment, if I would have turned on my angry rap music, all I would have wanted to do was break somebody. Like, they would have looked at me wrong, and I would have been like, okay, I'm breaking your arm. Like, what's up, you know? But in that moment, I had to put myself in check and realign my heart with the heart of heaven. And I had to turn on worship music, right? Right? I think this next line came out of a devotion, or just like me talking to the Lord, because I've been having a lot of conversations with God lately, in a lot of different tones. But this is what I just felt. Even when my circumstances leave me shaken and shattered, his promises are never changing. If I'm being completely honest, after I got that call, I was like, okay, God, I'm done. Like, I can't do this. And I'm a pastor, you guys, and I said I'm done. Like, what? We're real people, too. I think sometimes people think that if you have a microphone and you preach that you have your life all together and that your faith is always strong. No, it's not. I would like to have it be like that all the time. But the reality is of what I'm walking through. When I got that call, my world was shaken and I was shattered. But the reminder, the gentle, loving reminder that God sent me was like, hey, my promises are still true. Right? There's still more in your life. I think a challenge that I'm walking through right now is believing that God has abundance for my life. Right? And if you've walked through a lot of heartbreak, or if you've walked through a lot of disappointment, or if you've walked through grief, or walked through a lot of pain, I think it's easy to just settle for good enough. And my prayers start to sound like, okay, God, just get me through this day. And of course he'll do it. But God's like, what about the immeasurably more that I have for you? What about the immeasurably more? What about my promises, the whole book of promises that I have for you, and you're just clinging on to get me through the day? Like, yes, he'll get you through the day, but man, and I am challenged in this, man, can we, even in the midst of our pain, even in the midst of our heartbreak, actually be like, God, I'm not only going to believe you to get through the day, but I'm going to believe that on the other side of this, I'm going to be healed, and on the other side of this, there's going to be a fullness of joy. Right, because the Bible said there's a time for everything. There's a time to cry and there's a time to laugh. There's a time to grieve, but there's a time to dance. So on the other side of this, I'm believing there's going to be a fullness of joy. I'm going to believe that we're going to break out and dance on the other side of this, right? But I think so easily when we face disappointment after disappointment, it's easy to just settle on the, okay, God, just get me through this day. Just get me through this day. I'm wrapping up. I promise you guys. Hang in there. South, hang in there. You guys good? Are you guys okay? I know this is a heavy message. I don't mean to preach heavy messages all the time. I was telling somebody this. I was like, I want to be the person that is just like, oh my gosh, you guys, like, look at God, look at Jesus. And I want to be that preacher. I really do. But the Lord has a sense of humor, okay? And he's like, no, Tyra, I'm calling you to something different. So I'm just going to be obedient. As I was kind of like prepping this message and just praying, wanting to like honor my grandma too. I was just like reflecting on her life as you do when you lose somebody. And I was like, what did I learn from my grandma? I mean, I lived with my grandma for a period of time. And so she taught me a lot, okay? She taught me everything from, like, how to do laundry to good music. Y'all, my grandma listened to Eminem, okay? Like, talk about good music. Like, she was like, don't worry, Tyra, let me put you on something. Like, my grandma was the one putting me on good music, okay? So she taught me a lot of lessons. But I was like, what is a lesson? Like, one of the biggest lessons that I feel like I can take away from her. And looking back at her life, looking back at everything that she did for me and others, this is what I got for us. Our last point. Are you ready? Are you guys ready? Are you in it? I'm sorry. It's a lot. This is what I learned from my grandma, and this is what I'm going to take on. Love and serve others with everything you got. Love and serve others with everything you got. After my grandma passed, she literally had friends all over the world. I'm talking like Paris, Germany, London. And we got a message from this random person. I don't know who this person is, okay? We got a message, and apparently she owns a ranch. Amen, okay? Out in Walla Walla, we have lots of fields, so people own ranches, okay? And I also... Okay, anyways, somebody just said, I thought you meant Hidden Valley. Honestly, same. A ranch, like a lot of land, okay? But this person owned a ranch, and they were friends with my grandma. My grandma would go up all the time, and it was like a family-owned ranch, okay? So, like, they had, like, horses, whatever. But their mom got diagnosed with cancer, and a really aggressive cancer. And towards the end of her days, my grandma went up there. And for 4 days, all she did for the family was cook breakfast, lunch, dinner. She did all their laundry. She cleaned the house. She kept the ranch going so that they could just spend time with their mom who was passing away. But my grandma didn't come back and brag about it. I didn't even know she did that. All she told me was, okay, Tyra, I'm going to see some friends. But on the flip side of this, what she was doing was she was actually taking care of a hurting and broken family. And that's just one of the hundreds and hundreds of stories of people that she's helped, not only including my life, right, but just other people who weren't even related to her. So if we could take anything, it's love and serve people with everything that you got. Because at the end of this, you're going to leave a legacy. And you may be like, Tyra, I'm young. I don't care. But you can decide what your legacy is going to be right now. Is it going to be to love and serve others with everything that you got? Or is it going to be, oh, yeah, that was just a selfish person who, like, took everything and, like, kept to themselves? Oh, yeah, that was just the person who kind of, like, used people for their own personal gain. And then after they used people, they just threw them back. Right? Whatever we allow right now is what we're going to allow when we get older. So what legacy are we leaving? Are we leaving a legacy of loving others and serving others, or are we leaving a legacy of selfishness? Right? What legacy are we leaving? So love and serve others with everything that we got. And this also comes from the Word of God, right? So I'm wrapping up. So worship team, Corinne, Maya, South, worship team, come up. I know Nate Dogg is on the piano at South. Thanks, Nate Dogg. So as I'm walking through this week, and as I'm walking through, like, pain and just reminiscing on, like, okay, God, like, what do you want from me? Like, I felt like I couldn't do this anymore. I was like, God, I don't want to move on. I don't want to keep doing ministry because I'm so hurt. I'm so broken. God, I thought you were on my side. God, I thought you were going to come through in this situation, but why the heck am I walking through this, right? And I'm facing all these questions. And I'm like, God, where the heck do I even go from here? Where the heck do I even go from here? And if you've been checked out this whole entire message, it's okay. The piano is amazing. The piano at South is amazing, but some of y'all are like sleeping, okay? If you've been checked out this whole message right here, open your eyes, lean in, and take this one thing. Love and serve others with everything that you got. The Bible says this, Matthew 22:39. Talking about the commandments. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor. It's not just talking about your physical neighbor. It's talking about every single person that is placed in your life. It's talking about the people at your school. It's talking about your family. No matter how hard family seems to be loved, okay? Maybe it's like, Tyra, you don't know my family. They're dysfunctional, okay? They are so hard to love. Love your family. God calls us to love our neighbors. But then the other thing that we can learn and take from this, and this is my last verse, Matthew 20:28. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and give his life as a ransom for many. Even Jesus came to serve others. So who am I to walk into anywhere and expect to be served? Who am I to walk into a church and be like, you know what? Nope. And like judge the service. Who am I to be like, you know what? I really think they should have sung this worship song instead of this worship song because like that's my preference. And it's like, who am I to walk in and demand my personal preferences when Jesus, who literally had the authority to demand anything, but he came and served others? That's his whole life, was serving others. Who are we? And what legacy are we going to leave? You guys can come up. So if we can stand to our feet right now. South, we love you. We're going to send it back to the team.